Hi and welcome back. In this episode I'm going to show you how to make a simple English woven base, the foundations of a really good basket. I'd encourage you, if you're new to basketry, to make lots of bases. It's really good practice and it'll get you used to the material and how it works, and they'll slowly get better over time. The only tools that we will need for the base is the secateurs, a bodkin, and if you don't have a bodkin, a flathead screwdriver will work just as well. From the willow that I sorted, this is the thick bundle of willow. So different parts of a basket have different thicknesses, different lengths. Sometimes everything needs to be exactly the same. Sometimes we can be a bit more fluid with what we're using. This thick willow is going to become the base sticks inside my basket frame. So these need to be the thickest and the strongest willow sticks that I'll use through the whole basket. I'm going to do a 4x4 base, so here I have 4 rods and going through them I have 4 rods. As I'm weaving I will spread those out and they will make 16 spokes, like the spokes of a wheel. I've decided to go for a 4x4 base because it means when we put the side stakes in next to each of these spokes, I won't need to add a stake next to each spoke. In other kinds of baskets, if I'd done, for example, a 3x3 base, next to my spoke I would need to add 2 stakes and then I'd have to separate them, which isn't a problem, but that's more advanced than just going with a 4x4. So it's a little bit more work to set up, but it makes the process of weaving the entire basket a lot easier. These are already in the right positions, I'm not having to separate them once I start the weave. I also want a base that has a slight curve on it. So different people weave differently. Some people do flat bases. I don't like flat bases. When we get to the point where we're adding the side stakes, the pressure of them tends to move the base slightly. So it's easy to end up with a wibble wobble base. Baskets don't sit in the middle of the basket, they sit on the corners of the basket. So if I start with a basket that's flat, I'm more likely to get a basket that's a wibble wobble basket, and I don't want that. So we're going to focus as we weave to go slowly, steadily, to take our time to separate the spokes evenly and to get this gentle curve on it. If you haven't woven before, if you haven't used a bodkin before, I would encourage you to get a rod and just practice putting holes in them. So because willow is a round material, we don't generally put sticks on top of each other because they'll roll. We don't generally have material that's like that because it is really difficult to control and it's really not very nice to work on. Everything will roll around as you're working. So we put holes through willow and then put the willow through those rods. To use a bodkin, if you're not used to using one, if you're left-handed, work out a way that works for you. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to use it in my right hand. The willow will want to roll, so I need to make sure that I hold it, and I'd encourage you to practice before you actually start getting your stakes ready if you're not used to weaving. So by holding the willow and then using my bodkin just to place it on top, I can gently press down, bring it up, and then I can slide it onto the stick. If you don't have a bodkin and you're just starting out, you can do the same with a flathead screwdriver. So I'll go to another part of the stick, using my left hand just to hold the stick in place, and then gently pressing down. Once it's through, if I was using a screwdriver, I would then turn it to the side so that I've got a gap big enough that I can put willow through. So I'm going to make a 4x4 base. These are quite long rods, they're 5-foot rods. I'm not going to use one rod to make 2 sticks because that second cutting will be too thin, and this needs to be the strongest part of the entire basket. So that's the first thing. Second thing would be, because the willow that I'm using has been machine cut, they have tractors that cut the willow, they often can be a little bit ragged at the bottom and they can have splits up them. So I'm cutting off as little as possible, but I'm just cutting the ends off to make sure that they're flat and that there's no issues with the rod. Once I've cut them and I'm happy with it, I'm going to cut them again. This is about 26 centimeters. So I'm going to use that first stick as my measuring stick. I've now got 8 sticks. They're not all perfectly straight because of the way that willow grows. It grows around a little stool, a little stump. It grows like that. So they have a natural curve on them, a natural belly. And some of them just have one. Some of them, depending on where they were in the field, can have lots of them moving up because of the way that they moved in the wind. Some of them look really straight. But it just means when you start working with it, they're not always straight. So before I start making holes in them, I'm just going to gently massage the willow. It doesn't need to be perfectly straight, just me telling it, it's then got that give. So as I'm weaving around it, if I'm trying to make it go in a specific position, it's already being told that that's what it's going to do. The next thing I'm going to do is the willow has little growing nodes on them. They're pointing upwards. So from where they're pointing upwards, this is the thick end of my willow, it's called the butt, and this is the tip end. So I'm just going to make sure that they're all in the same direction first of all. So all of my growing nodes are all pointing upwards. I'm then going to grade them, so I'm going to put 4 sticks on one side and 4 sticks on the other, and I'm going to try and choose material that I think is a little bit thicker to go on one side, and I'll choose the slightly thinner stuff to go on the other. Because we're working with a natural material, there's a big variation in strength. So this is my thick end, this is the butt end, this is the tip end. This end's a lot stronger than that end. If I weave a basket where all of my thick material's on this side and all of my thin material's on this side, this will be a weak side of the basket. This will be really strong. So I'm going to take alternate rods and just turn them around. They still have that slight curve that I was talking about as well. I've massaged them and prepared them for what they're going to do, but they do have that natural curve, so I'm going to work with it. They're curving in this direction. I'm not going to have them so that they're all doing different things to each other because it just makes it more difficult to control. I'm now going to use my bodkin to put a hole in. So I need to find the middle of my rod, so I reckon it's about there. It's going to roll because it's a round material, so I'm going to hold it. The best way to hold your bodkin is like this, with your thumb on top. Place it where you're going to put the hole, and then if you put your body on top, so either go underneath your right shoulder or underneath your body, you're then putting your full weight straight down, so it's more likely to do what you want it to do. Once I've got a little hole through, I will bring it up to my body and wiggle it onto the bodkin. I'm then going to line up the next one and do the same. So that's about the middle. If you're not sure which is the tip end and which is the butt end, just have a look at those growing nodes. So my first rod, they're going in that direction, and my second rod, they're going in that direction. I'm going to wiggle them onto my bodkin, and then once they're there, I can add my stakes that are going to go through them. It's always easier to go in with the thin end. This is the tip end. So because I'm working with 4, that first one I'm going to put up in that direction. So the first one I've gone in with the tip, and that's the tip. I'm going to go in on this side next, and I'm going to go in the opposite direction. So that's my butt end. Once those 2 are on, I can take my bodkin out and I can add the 2 in the middle. So this is a tip end, so I'm going to put it next to that one. And next to this one, I'm going to go down in the opposite direction again. So straight away I've got a tip, but, tip, but. So once we have our little base together with the lovely black maul, I'm going to use some of the shorter and finer Flanders red to weave around it. I need to work with 2 rods at the same time. I'm going to do a weave called a pairing weave. So I've got 4 rods initially that are very similar in length and thickness to each other. A pairing weave is a really good weave to learn. All English round baskets have a pairing weave in the base, and a pairing weave is a pair. It's working with 2 rods at the same time. It's the same weave from the beginning all the way to the end, but it can feel different as you start because we're going over all 4 rods at a time, and then we'll start to separate them. Once they're all separated, you can get into the flow of the weaving. I always tell students, some students get this straight away, but a lot of students really struggle because it feels like you're doing different things even though you're doing the same thing, because you're going over 4, you're then starting to separate them, but you don't separate them all at the same time. You're working with the material even though it's really short and it doesn't look like there's a big difference between the tip and the thick end, the butt. There's a really big difference in the tension and how it feels, and if you're not used to weaving, it can be really confusing when you start. But I always tell students, no, even if you really struggle, by the time you get to there, you've got it. Everyone gets it. So if you're weaving at home and you're quite frustrated and you don't feel like you're getting it, you will. By the time you get to here, you'll get it. If this is the first base that you've woven and you do a really bad job, don't worry about it, it's a test piece. So, to start off, I've got 2 weavers. They're thinner than my stakes. I've gone for 4 foot. I'm going to start with my tips and I'll end on butts. If I take my frame, it's already got a kind of a curve that's more or less going in this direction, so I'm going to try and work with that curve. I'm going to have it so that the curve's facing the ceiling. So when I look at my basket, I'm weaving the underside. I'm looking at the underside. The reason that I'm choosing to do that is as I weave, I'm going to be pulling towards me all the time, which will exaggerate the curve in that direction. If I have it in the other direction, I'm kind of working against the material and it makes it harder to do it. So try and work with the material as much as you can. If we look at the split that I've created, it's ceiling to floor. I'm going to put my 2 tips in from the right hand side at the top to the left hand side, or I could say I'm going from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock. I'm not going to weave with this side, I just need it to come through enough that I can grip it in my left hand. We're going to work to the right hand side. A full weave is over and under. In order to make it so that we're weaving towards ourselves, with my first weaver I'm going to do the second half of the weave first. So this might seem a bit complicated, but honestly it's not. I'm going to show you really good practice for making a good base. So it doesn't matter which weaver I take first because they're both in the same gap. I'm going to do the under part first. So my first weaver is going to go under the first set of 4, and it's the set that's to the right of me or at 3 o'clock. Once it's come back up, I'm going to use my thumb just to hold it in. A pairing weave's a locking weave, so when my second weaver does the full weave, which is over and under the next set of 4, it's locked that weaver in place. So again, going back to the weave, I can now do a full weave with this one. It's going to go over and under. I'm pulling it really tight as I go. Willow's really strong, I can really pull it. I can now do the full weave with this one, and you'll notice before I do the weave it's locked in place by the other weaver, so I can't undo the weave. So it's going to start off on the inside of the weave. It's going to do its full weave, which is over and under, and when it comes back up I'm just going to use my thumb to hold it in place. As it went round, it locked the other weaver in place. So again, this weaver is now going to do a full weave. We're going to do 2 rows all together that go across all 4 stakes. So a full weave is over. It's going to lock the other weaver in place. So before I start, it's locked in place by the other weaver. When it does its weave, it locks the other weaver in place. So it's going over, locking the other weaver in place, under. And when it comes back up, I'm just going to hold it on the inside of the weave. That means that this can then lock it in place. So full weave over, under, over, under. The placement of your hands is really important. My left hand is my gripping hand. I'm using it to really hold the structure in place. When I'm weaving with my right hand, I'm really pulling the willow as I go, so that the tension stays really tight and strong as I'm doing the weave. Now at this point, if we look at my base, I've got 2 rows. If you look at any round base, there'll always be just 2 rows. We don't go into 3 because I want to try and get as much done with these weavers before I replace them. So it's always 2 because 2 has now locked this so it's nice and secure. I'm going to cut my tips off because they've done their job. You can leave them on if you want, but they annoy me as I'm weaving around. So I'm going to cut them now so that they're not in my way. So in order to carry on the weave, I need to start separating my spokes. I'm not going to separate them all at the same time. If you look at a lot of books on weaving, they'll say separate all the spokes now. It's really difficult to get good results if you do that, so we're going to stagger it. So looking at my weave, if I carry on with this one, I'm going to go over and under. I don't want to come under there, I want to start separating these spokes. So I'm going to take the 2 on the left and tell them that they're going to the left. And I'm going to take the 2 on the right and tell them that they're going to the right. And instead of my weaver coming up after all 4, I'm going to make it come up between the 2. From this point on, it starts to get a little bit easier to see the weave and what you're doing. It's always the left one of the 2 weavers. You can say it's the left weaver or you can say it's weaver number 1. Before it starts doing the weave, the other weaver's locked it in place. It's going to do the same weave as usual, but this time it's just going over the 2. So it's going to go over 2. It's going to lock the other weaver in place as it does its weave, and then it's just going to go under 2. So it's the left weaver. It's going to do its full weave, so it's going to go over 2. I'm going to turn my frame around. Now I need to move all these stakes. So the 2 on the left need to go to the left, and the 2 on the right need to go to the right. It's really important to put the kinks in. If you don't put the kinks in, the willow won't move. So I'm going to finish the weave. It's done its over, it's done its under, and it's finished when it's come back up. So whenever you finish the weave, both weavers should be facing up towards you. This should look like that. It's weaver number 1 again, or the left weaver. It's going to go over 2. It's going to lock the other weaver in place. That's really important. It always has to go in on top of the other weaver. That makes it a pairing weave. It then needs to go under 2, and you finish the weave when both weavers are facing up. So it's weaver number 1 on top of weaver number 2. I need to separate my spokes. So the 2 on the left, I'm going to tell them they're going to the left, and the 2 on the right, I'm going to tell them that they're going to the right. That's then created a gap for me to bring my weaver back up. And now I finished the weave. Weaver number 1 is going over 2. It's locking weaver number 2 in place, and it's coming up in the next gap. So it's gone under 2. Weaver number 1 is going on top of weaver number 2. I need to move these spokes, and then it's going to come up in that gap. Now at that point you can see it's created a pattern. We've got 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. As I weave around again, I need to separate these spokes out again so that by the time we've gone round again, each spoke will be separate and we'll just have one spoke. So it's weaver number 1. It's going to go down on weaver number 2. I'm going nice and slow and breaking that movement down. The material that I'm working with is starting to get thicker, so it's getting more difficult to weave, so I'm just really taking my time as I go. Weaver number 1, top of weaver number 2. As I come around this time, I'm going to separate the left 2 and I'm going to come up in that knee gap. So it's weaver number 1. Always has to go in the gap where the second weave is coming out, because it has to lock it in place. And I've not finished the weave until it's come back up through that gap. So it's still doing exactly the same weave. Weaver number 1 is now just going over one spoke and it's going under one spoke, and the weave's finished when they're both facing up. So it's weaver number 1, it's going over one spoke, it's locking the other weaver in place as it goes, and it's going behind one spoke and back up. So I'm going to repeat that process as I go around the base of the basket, and I'm making sure as I go around the basket that I'm just taking my time, I'm separating my spokes, and I'm trying to get the weave as tight and as neat as possible. Breaking down movement's really important. So the weaving bit's really straightforward, it's just on top of one, behind one. It's all of the other movements that matter. So I've already said the part of the basket that I'm working on is the underside. So I'm trying to create that gentle curve as I go, and because of the nature of the weave that I'm doing, I'm naturally pulling it up towards me, which is making it have that curve more. But you might find as you're going round that they're not all moving in the same way. So you're just going to take your time and try and get the willow to move in the positions that you want it to be in. I'm almost out of material, so I'm gonna replace it. I might actually undo it one. I don't want to replace in a really big gap. I might undo that one and replace it there. So I already have my next 2 rods ready. I'm going to make them so that they're exactly the same. So I already chose material that is the same thickness and it's approximately the same length. I'm going to get them together at the tips and I'm going to cut off any excess from the butt. When we're doing locking weaves, and a pairing weave is a locking weave, you always replace like for like. So I wouldn't replace the butt with a tip. You can see the size difference. This is the strongest part of the material, this is the weakest part of the material. So as well as it not looking very good, this does not have the strength to hold these in place. So it's a rule when we're doing locking weaves, when we're doing a pairing weave, that we have to replace like for like. So if we've ended on butts, I need to replace it with a butt. And when I end on a tip, I'll need to replace it with a tip. We pretend that the material just goes on forever. So the rod that I would weave with next would be my left one. It's this one. I'm going to pull it back so that I create a little gap, and I'm going to put this new rod down into that gap. I'm just going to set everything before I carry on again to get it as tight as possible, and then I'm going to tell my willow. So at the moment my willow's that angle. I'm just going to press it against the spoke, and then it's got the kink in the right place and it's got lots of give. And then going to do exactly the same weave as usual. So this is my left rod, it's going to go down on top of the right weaver, and then it's going to come up through the knee gap. I now need to replace this weaver. This is now the left weaver of the pair. So again, I'm going to pull it back so it's created a little gap. I'm going to put my new weaver in the same gap. I'm going to tell it before I head off. So at the moment it's at this angle and it doesn't really want to do what I want it to. So I'm just going to tell it against the wood. So it's got a crease and now it's got lots of give. And now I can do the weave. So it's going to go on top of the right weaver. I'm still separating my spoke, so I'm going to move that spoke to the left and it's going to come up through that new gap. So now we can carry on with the weaving. It's exactly the same weave. It's a left weaver. It's still quite thick, so I'm still going to tell it on the wood. So I've just given it a little crease on the wood. Makes it easier to weave if it knows what it's doing. And then bring it up through the new gap. So it's left weaver. I'm going to tell it. Bring it down on the right weaver, up through the new gap. I'm going to cut these down a little bit. I'm not going to cut them flush, but I'm just going to cut them down so that they're not in my way as I'm weaving. And I'm going to carry on weaving around. Now that all my spokes are separated, you can see that that is not a good base. That's too far down. They're the same as each other. That's a really small gap. It's a really big gap, got a really big gap there. As I go around this second time, I'm going to go really slow and really set my stakes where I want them to be. Where I did my join as well, it's a little bit gappy, so when I come round again, I'm going to really pull down with the willow to get it as tight as possible. Again, I've just done another row. It's still not totally even. That's still a bigger gap. That's still a bigger gap. That one's still lower down. Those two are a little bit closer. But incrementally I'm making it more and more even as I go. So again, just take your time. Keep moving the frame around as you go. Make sure your hands are always working at a comfortable hand position. Like for example, sometimes I see students kind of doing that because they're not moving the frame around as they weave. Always work in a comfortable hand position so you can see what you're doing and you're not straining your hands. When we're replacing butts, it's the thickest and strongest part of the material. So when you finished your basket, you'll end up with butts on this side and you'll end up with correlating butts on the opposite side. Everything in a basket gets cut off, and that's what makes it nice. So baskets are strong because of the cuts. We make sure that they're as flush to the frame as possible, and that makes the structure strong, so we don't try and hide the ends inside the basket. That doesn't work. I'll cut these at the end, but with the butts, you replace old butts with new butts and you carry on weaving. You don't try and carry on weaving with the old butts. But when we end on tips are very thin and it's weak material. So if I go all the way to the tip and then add new tips, you can see it in the basket, it suddenly goes really, really thin. That's also a weaker part in the basket. So like other fibre arts, when you're replacing thin material with thin material, it's good practice to have a longer join. So I'm popping my new material in exactly the same way. So it's the left weaver that I would work with next. I'm lifting it up and it's going in exactly the same gap, just like I did with the butt. I'm doing the same weave as usual, so it's going on top of the right weaver and up through the new gap. But once it's there, I'll take the old one and I'll do the same weave, and that will give me a stronger and a longer join. So I've now got my second one, so this is now my left weaver. I've moved it to the side. I'm going to pop that in exactly the same gap. I'm going to do the next weave, and then I'm going to take the old weaver and do the same with that. And then I'm going to carry on with the weave as before. So it's left in the same gap as the right one, up through the next gap. So other things to consider when you're weaving, I often notice students will try and at this point kind of pull the willow down because they're trying to keep the weave really tight. But if you look at the general flow of the weave, because we're working in a circle, the willow's naturally wanting to go in that direction. So you do want to keep it down, work out how you can use your hand to keep the weave tight. But if you start doing things like that and pulling it down, you're starting to add really hard kinks into the willow. And as you move further out from the circle, it'll start to actually lift the weave up and it'll make it gappy. So we're trying to work with the material all the time, and the material's wanting to go in that direction, so try and let it do that. So that's as far as I can go with those two weavers. I'm going to replace them. I've ended on the butts on the thick material, so I need to replace them with butts. So I've got my two weavers ready. I'm just getting them together at the tip, and if there was any difference at the butt end I would cut that off so that I'm working with the same length material. It always goes in front of the old weaver, so these two weavers, they're the same weaver. This new rod is that rod. I want to make sure that when I weave, when I take it off, that nothing's in the way of it. We don't want the old weaver being in the way of itself. So to know where to put your new weaver in the gap, you need to lift it out of the way, and then it's going to go in that hole underneath the old one, because that puts it in front of the old weaver. Again, before I carry on weaving, I would pull that weaver down so that this is in as tight a gap as possible. And I would also let this weaver know what it's about to do. So simply by doing that little movement, it's creased against the stake where I want it to. So it's going to go down on top of the right hand weaver, up through the new gap. So now I can replace this one. This one's ended up being a little bit longer. I would still replace it now. Don't do one more weave with it and then replace it, because if you do that, the rods that you're working with will be totally different thicknesses by the time you get to the thinner material. I'm only making a small base for this basket. It's a small basket, so altogether there's going to be 12 weavers. But the number of weavers that you use might be dependent on the material that you're weaving with, on the size of the base that you want to make. I know as a general rule that I need to start with tips, so it's easier to do that first bit, and I know that as I get to the end I need to end on tips. So the last thing we need to do as we get towards the end of our base is just to do a little running stitch with the tips. So it's important to end on tips. If we end with the thick end, if we end with the butt, it makes a gap in the rest of the weave and it's hard to hide it. So with the tips, I'm just going to go through the weave, and it doesn't really matter where you go through. I just want a weave or two so that it's tied off in the base. And this is just to stop it coming apart a little bit, and then those can be cut off. I'm going to cut these off, but I'll do it when I start adding the side stakes. But that pretty much is the end of the base. In this episode we've completed our first base. In the next episode I'm going to teach you how to do your side stakes and how to do a wailing weave. If you're following along, please leave your comments and feedback below. It'd be really nice to see what you're all up to. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode.